Okay, so we're diving into some serious stuff today. The long-term health impacts of COVID-19 and specifically the possible link to cancer. We're looking at this review article from Curious, COVID-19 and Carcinogenesis, exploring the hidden links. And, this goes way beyond just a cough that won't quit.
It really does. It's pretty unsettling when you think about it. We're talking about COVID-19 potentially setting the stage for cancer to develop, and we're only just beginning to grasp how. It's like this virus has the potential to hijack the very processes that keep our cells healthy.
Yeah, that's a pretty disturbing thought. I mean, long COVID was already a concern, but this is a whole other level. One of the things I found most concerning in this article was how COVID-19 seems to create this, perfect storm in our bodies, increasing the risk of cancer. And they point to a few key culprits.
Right. Let's break down this perfect storm idea. One of the biggest players is inflammation. We already knew that COVID-19 could really do a number on our immune systems, right? Think back to all that talk about the cytokine storm early on. That massive inflammatory response, although it's meant to fight off the virus, can have some pretty serious long-term consequences.
So it's like our bodies get stuck in overdrive, still fighting even though the enemy's long gone.
Exactly. And the article brings up these studies that show people still have elevated inflammatory markers, things like IL-6 and TNF-8, even months after they've recovered from COVID-19. Imagine your body in this constant state of alert, always battling an invisible enemy. That chronic inflammation can actually damage DNA, which makes cells more likely to just grow out of control. And that, as I'm sure you know, is a major hallmark of cancer.
So we're talking about the lingering effects of inflammation creating a breeding ground for cancer, not just the virus itself directly causing it.
Precisely. But it doesn't stop there. This review also dives into the world of genetics and epigenetics and suggests that COVID-19 might actually be changing how our genes function.
Okay, I have to admit, genetics and epigenetics always make my head spin a little. Could you maybe break that down for me?
Sure. So think about your genes like a massive library full of instructions for your body, right? Well, epigenetics is like the system that decides which books to open and read. Basically, it influences how those genes are expressed. What's concerning is that COVID-19 could be messing with which books get read, maybe turning on genes that promote cancer growth, and even switching off the ones that protect us.
So the virus is like leaving these hidden messages in our DNA, making us more susceptible to cancer down the line. That is wild.
It's a really complex area of research, but the potential implications are huge. And on top of those genetic concerns, the article also highlights specific proteins, ACE2, TMPRSS2, and furin. These proteins are essential for the virus to enter our cells in the first place.
Okay, those are some pretty complicated names. What's the takeaway there?
Well, what's interesting and kind of scary is that these proteins, while critical for the virus, also have links to the development and progression of cancer. They're like double agents working for both sides.
So not only might the virus itself be causing problems, but it's using our own internal systems against us.
It's definitely a sobering thought. And it gets even more complicated when we start considering the treatments used for severe COVID-19, things like corticosteroids and immunosuppressants.
Right, because those medications were and still are lifesavers for people battling the virus.
Absolutely. But as with a lot of medications, there's a potential trade-off. These treatments work by suppressing the immune system, which is what we need in the short term to fight off the virus. But long term, a weakened immune system might actually increase the risk of developing cancer.
So it's a double-edged sword. We need these meds to fight the virus, but they might come with some serious risks down the line.
Exactly. It really highlights how important it is to carefully consider and monitor for those long-term effects. And, it's not just about, developing new cancers. This review also raises concerns about how COVID-19 might be affecting cancers that are already there, maybe even making them more aggressive.
Hold on. Are you saying that if you already have cancer, getting COVID could make it worse? That's really scary.
It's definitely a possibility that researchers are looking into. The article specifically mentions breast cancer and points to studies that suggest a potential link between COVID infection and tumors behaving more aggressively.
Okay, this perfect storm analogy is starting to feel really real. It's like COVID just throws this wrench into how our bodies work, and the consequences could be really serious. Did the article say anything about how long these effects might last?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, we don't have a clear answer yet. This is all still relatively new, and scientists are working hard to understand those long-term implications.
So, a lot of unknowns still. But even without all the answers, it feels like this information is still power, right? At least now we know what questions to ask and what to watch out for.
Absolutely. And speaking of things to watch out for, the article also mentions this particularly concerning possible consequence of COVID-19, synchronous second cancers.
Synchronous second cancers, I'm not familiar with that. What is that exactly?
So it's when someone is diagnosed with multiple primary cancers at the same time, or at least within a really short time frame. Imagine getting hit with not just one cancer diagnosis, but two or even more all at once. That's a lot for anyone to handle.
Wow, that is heavy. And the article is suggesting a connection between COVID-19 and these synchronous cancers. How does that even work?
Again, the research is still in the early stages, but one theory is that the way COVID-19 impacts the immune system, especially that potential to cause long-term inflammation, could be playing a role.
So maybe it's not so much the virus directly causing these second cancers, but weakening our defenses and making us more vulnerable.
That's one of the main theories researchers are exploring, and it really underscores how important it is to be really proactive about our health, even after we've recovered from that initial bout of COVID-19. We can't forget about those potential long-term risks.
So with all these potential long-term risks we've been talking about, what can we actually do? I mean, it can feel kind of overwhelming.
You're right, it's a lot to process, but the important thing is we're asking these questions. This review article, while it raises some really valid concerns, also makes it clear that we need more research. In the meantime, knowledge is power.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
But what do we do with it? What are some practical steps people can take to protect themselves, given what we're learning here?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed. Don't let this be the end of your deep dive, so to speak. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and stay on top of the latest research. Talk to your doctor. Talk to your friends and family about this. The more we know, the more empowered we are to make good decisions about our health.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power if you use it. But besides just staying informed, what else can people do? What are some practical steps to take?
Well, we've talked a lot about inflammation being this key part of the problem, right? That whole perfect storm scenario. So anything you can do to keep inflammation in check is a good thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some good ways to combat that inflammation?
Honestly, it's all about taking a holistic approach. A healthy diet with lots of fruits, veggies, antioxidants, regular exercise, finding good ways to manage stress, whether it's mindfulness or meditation or something else, and of course, prioritizing sleep. It might sound simple, but these lifestyle choices can have a huge impact.
It's like all the things our doctors have been telling us forever, but now there's even more urgency behind it.
Exactly. And it's not about piling on more stress, but about making those sustainable, healthy choices a part of your life, making them a priority.
It's about focusing on the things we can control, for sure. Speaking of control, the article also mentioned early detection. That feels especially crucial now with the possibility of things like those synchronous cancers.
Absolutely. Early detection is key. Don't put off those checkups and screenings. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want people to take away from this conversation?
I think it's important to remember that even though this article brings up some really serious concerns, it's not meant to scare people. It's a call to action. We're not helpless. We can educate ourselves, we can make informed choices, and we can advocate for our own health.
I love that. This has been a really eye-opening conversation. Thanks for breaking down this complex topic with us and giving us some actionable steps to take going forward.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Remember to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged in your health journey. Until next time.